Santa Clara freshman Alan Graves was the newest March hero for about 2.5 seconds, and then Otega Oweh happened.
Welcome in to Locked On College Basketball Squad Show, your go-to spot for everything happening on the hardwood. From blue blood battles to bracket busters and everything in between. Join the squad of hoops junkies as we break down the biggest stories with the boldest takes and unfiltered opinions. Because here, we don't hold back. It's the College Basketball Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks? Happy Friday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Squad Show. I am your host, Andy Patton, joined today by a handful of fantastic Locked On College Basketball hosts as we get into the second full day of the NCAA tournament. All this part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network. Want to thank all of you for making this show your first listen or watch of the day, and remind you today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Folks, you can turn your energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Just head to FanDuel.com to get started. Well, we're leading the show with the epic matchup between Kentucky and Santa Clara, a 7-10 seed game that fully delivered to kick off the slate on Friday. We're also going to talk about Cinderella. The death of Cinderella was greatly exaggerated. We saw a handful of phenomenal results on Thursday, some coming down to the wire right now as we're recording this live on Friday afternoon. And then we're going to get some previews for Saturday. We're going to look at Duke and Michigan State and Houston and a couple of their games coming up this weekend. We're going to start with this game between Kentucky and Santa Clara, and I said it in the cold open, I thought Alan Graves just etched his place in college basketball history, hitting that three with 2.5 seconds to go to give Santa Clara a lead over Kentucky. Otega Oweh hits like a 42-foot three-pointer to send that game into overtime. It was just so deflating for the Broncos. Kentucky, Mark Pope gets a win here. And for those of you who know or see the hat and know that I'm a WCC and Gonzaga fan, I could talk about this Santa Clara team and this game for a very long time, but I will pass it off. What was our initial reaction? Do we think this is a game going to top this in terms of just excitement and intrigue down the stretch? Because this was a phenomenal basketball game.
I think the only thing that would top it is if like the overtime had also had the same excitement, right? Like this was to get to overtime. Isaac's got the Carolina background, one of those things behind him somewhere, right? Like they had a title game finish with a couple shots that finished kind of like that, right? One of those numbers was a title game that had, right, a shot and a shot and a shot. Actually, I don't mean to rub things in the other way.
Actually, that poster doesn't have that because that was a game they did
wrong way.
Thank you for reminding me about how Marcus Page's shot is completely forgotten to history, but just like Alan Graves will now be.
Right, because that finished the game. This got us to overtime. The overtime was less exciting, but like it's definitely the best shot of the first round. Like it's best finish of the first round, and it would take a lot to top it in the rest of the tournament. I mean, it's a long way to go.
It's almost depressing. Like, why even watch the rest of the day? That's the pinnacle right there. Now it's just going to be a slow come down after that. But yeah,
Wright State's beating Virginia right now. Let's go.
I apologize to the Raiders. That's on me.
Been a great ACC weekend.
Go Wright State. I'm glad that follow-up three didn't even get a chance to be taken into account in this game because, look, it probably would have been beneficial to the 1% of Santa Clara fans. And then the other 99% college basketball fans, how fun was that? So thanks a lot for just not fouling at all. I feel so bad, but, oh, man, what a bonus for the rest of us guys.
They were trying to call a timeout. There's a picture of Herb Sendek calling timeout, but the official is not looking his way. And that does happen time to time. It gets loud in there. The official is trying to focus on the play and stuff. But maybe if they do get that timeout call, like maybe they do end up fouling.
Okay, DJ, I wonder about this, though. I thought two things that Herb Sendek did wrong in that moment is he hesitated. Like if you watch it, there's like a beat before he goes to call timeout. And also he charged forward to try to call timeout with the ref that was already sprinting back towards the Kentucky bench instead of hitting the ref that was behind him on the baseline. I think if he turns to him, he still started to signal it before that ball was inbounded.
I think Isaac's exactly right there. He needs to go to the baseline official because that's the ball's being inbounded. You need to get on the floor and make a show of it. Like let's stop the game. And then I also think that, and this is, you don't talk about mistakes in that moment, Isaac.
Yeah.
All these high-level programs, you practice situations. And so look, you might not have had a timeout to talk about it like we're all mentioning. You need to have talked about it as a staff, as a whatever. Hey, if we're up 3 and they've got to go the length of the floor, we're taking a foul at half court, or we're taking a like
right.
And you have to. Yeah, I mean, all these tournament teams are successful. You have to practice it at some point. You're not working on fundamentals the entire 3-hour practice every day. You got to do some situational basketball and have some situational awareness to keep that from happening.
And I get that Santa Clara is elated with what just happened, but immediately Graves turns around and he's like celebrating like it's like until it's 8 gajillion zeros on the clock, you have to stay locked in and pick up defensively. Like that again, that's a situational lack of awareness. And I probably would have done the same if I'm being honest, because I wasn't in that moment. But this is why you practice those things, so you can act like you've been there before and make the right mental decisions.
I was just going to say, I can't believe Oweh got in a position to get that shot off. 2.4 seconds is not much time at all.
Do you think Ohio State and Bruce Thornton are watching what just happened half the time? And they're like, immediately you're allowed to do that?
Right. I was like, we, as a basketball observer, we ruined this yesterday at the end of Ohio State TCU. And finally, someone was able to get all the way across half court, nearly to the 3-point line, it felt like, for Oweh to let that thing go in 2.4 seconds. Yeah, Ohio State's having a miserable morning.
Yeah. Oweh was in high point range. I mean, that's where the guy pulled up from the other way. Right? Like, I mean, basically, right? So,
yeah. I mean, that was like not far from where Jalen Suggs hit that shot a few years ago, and I think he did that in like 3.5 seconds. Like the fact that Oweh got there in 2.5 is just insane. And again, like if Graves had turned around immediately to defend, what probably would have happened, considering how this game went, is Alan Graves would have tried to get in Otega Oweh's way. He probably would have fouled him. That would have been bad because he would have fouled out. But then Kentucky would have had to inbound the ball with like 1.5 seconds left at half court. Like they may not have gotten a better look off of that. Like that may have been a game-winning move had that happened.
You at least set up a defense, right? You put a 7-footer on the ball. You make them chuck a bad pass. You make them run something. Like this was glorified. We're taking advantage of you dancing, right? Like I mean, it was not a good look.
Andy, to your point, we have a comment from Rip Snort. I don't know how to say that. Who literally said Santa Clara got Suggsed. So brilliant stuff there. Look, here's the thing. Then when we get to overtime, I'm like, Sash, what are you doing?
Thank you.
Like you get this switch with Garrison. You drive that switch. Oh, I know they're down 4, but you got plenty of time to take an easy 2 and then foul and keep extending this game. Like that was a young mistake. And then to go back to that well and get like,
again, he did it twice. I couldn't believe it. I mean, not only was fouling 90 feet away from the basket just a dynamite way to start overtime, which ended up, I'll be darned, being a good foul. He did miss both free throws, but man, the back-to-back try to shoot the 3 over Garrison play, Santa Clara, we lost our cool. I'm sorry to boil it down to something so simple as that cliche, but we lost our head, guys. Oh no, Broncos. So sad.
And Gonzaga played Santa Clara 3 times this year, and in those matchups, like Santa Clara's a really good 3-point shooting team, but Gonzaga figured out to just run them off the line and force them to drive because they, outside of Christian Hammond, they don't have a lot of guys who can get downhill and get to the basket. And Sash is not one of those guys. He's a 3-point shooter through and through. And I think he knew that getting into the lane on Moreno and those guys wasn't going to work, but trying to shoot over Brandon Garrison wasn't going to work either. And the fact that he tried it twice, like you said, Matt, it was a bad strategy, and they just seemed like they lost their head when they got into overtime.
But if he'd had a third time's a charm, you know.
How about Garrison, though? Down the stretch of that game, he gets a 4th foul with 7 minutes left, I think, and then to not foul down the stretch, stay in the game. And then even though it was stupid to keep chucking shots over him, he made the plays down the stretch, got Kentucky in transition a couple times. He's a big part, alongside Otega Oweh, of the reason why Kentucky won that game.
That's one of my favorite things about March. You get these guys who, like Garrison, has gotten a lot of heat from Kentucky fans this year. He's had a lot of ups and downs. And you get these, like everybody expects Otega Oweh to have a big game or Alan Graves to have a big game. You don't necessarily expect Brandon Garrison to go off and be one of your top 2 players, maybe, if you're Kentucky. And it's almost like this redemption arc you get in March where you sorry to bring this one up, Isaac, but like David McCormick was this like, he was this, I don't know. He was this roller coaster of a player. He'd drop a rebound, but then he'd make this incredible play. And then he goes out on top with the NCAA tournament. And now everything that was not great is just forgotten.
Great. So far we've brought up the 2016 shot, the 2022 floorboard incident in New Orleans, and Carolina becoming the worst upset or the worst collapse in first round history. That's awesome.
Happy
And
Friday.
we're going to talk more about that too, Isaac. Don't you worry.
Wait, I can't wait. Hey, while I've got the floor back though, did you guys see the stat of the company that Otega Oweh joined after this? Per CBS, so Otega Oweh in this game finishes with 35 points, 8 boards, 7 assists, a block, and a steal. From CBS Sports, here are the only people ever documented, because assists weren't kept until 84, only documented people with at least 35 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists in an NCAA tournament game. Oscar Robertson, Bill Bradley, Larry Bird,
Pretty good.
and Otega Oweh.
How did they get on there if assists weren't classified till 84?
Dude, I don't know, but CBS Sports
That is
said
a great point.
Just
Oscar
answer.
Robinson's playing in like the 60s, you know?
Just vibes.
The assist lasted that long.
Sure.
Well, before we move on, I do want to ask, because this is a game that I think busted a lot of brackets. I think a lot of people picked Santa Clara as a trendy upset, but while this game is literally just getting underway as we're going live, I don't think Tennessee State's going to pull off the upset over Iowa State. Does anybody have a lot of optimism for Kentucky, maybe using some momentum to potentially pull off an upset over the Cyclones, or do we feel like TJ Otzelberger's team's going to make it to the Sweet 16?
Joshua Jefferson was just laying on the court hurt a second ago, so
well, that would change the equation then.
Yeah, I think he's fine, but it's just watch it.
It does feel like sometimes you can get that boost though of playing in such an emotional game, and then
Okay, JJ, I hear why you're
the
saying
next time you're able to really step up to the level of competition that you've been playing. I think that's going to happen tomorrow in a particular game in Greenville.
Sure you do, JJ. Sure you do.
incredible.
I wanted him to join the club so bad. I wanted Duke to join my little club.
I thought we
two
were.
teams, but it was not. It was not in the cards.
Well, let's talk about some of these double-digit seeds. Probably not going to be any 16 seeds moving on. Arizona's certainly taking care of Long Island right now, so I think we're going to be safe there. But what other double-digit seeds might make the Sweet 16? Because it just hasn't happened all that much over the last couple of years, and we're going to look at whether that might change this weekend. All that and more coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, this episode is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And again, we've talked about him a lot already, but Otega Oweh, what a performance for him. Did not get deterred by Allen Graves hitting that three-point shot. Gets off an incredible look with 2.5 seconds to go. Ties this game, does work in overtime. 35 points, 8 boards, and 7 assists for Oweh, the emotional team leader for this Kentucky team. And that reminds us what it really takes for a program like that to raise the bar. It's that extra work. It's off the court. It's dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire and that never quit attitude. And Mazda puts that same passion into every model. Highlights are what make the reel, but what it took to get there is what makes it count. And there's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. It's here. It's March. We got big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night, every minute of every game. It feels like, from those early tip-offs all the way to those late night shootouts tonight, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. You can take your classic 12-5 upsets. You can get really spicy with some 15-2 or 14-3 upsets. You can go with the favorites. You can take some player props, whatever you want to do, however you see this tournament playing out. And you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up your potential payout. For Saturday, we got a couple lines here. Vanderbilt, 1.5-point favorites over Nebraska. We'll see if Fred Hoiberg's team can get win number 2 for the Huskers. Michigan State, 4.5-point favorites over Louisville. Gonzaga, 5.5-point over Texas. You can go safe. You can go bold. You can ride with the team that you've been rolling with all season long. It's your parlay, your style, and now there's more upside behind it. So head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Folks, if you want to get more involved right now, you can join the Everydayer Club. And if you use code MARCH, you'll get your first month free. Again, you get ad-free versions of the show. You get access to people on Discord as well. Join at lockedoncollegebasketball.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes. Folks, one of the big storylines last year, the potential death of Cinderella. There was concern about NIL and the transfer portal and this era of college basketball being so financially driven that we weren't going to see as many of these 14-3 upsets and 11 seeds getting to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four, whatever it may be. And last year's incredibly chalky bracket certainly added fuel to that fire and that conversation. And while we're, only not even halfway through day 2 of this tournament, we've already seen more upsets this year, or at least about the same number of upsets this year as we did all of last year. And I think
in the first round. Yeah, we'll see how that continues going into the Sweet 16 and into the Elite 8. But we had High Point over Wisconsin, their first win ever over a high major team in their entire history, and they do it in the big dance. Incredible game there. VCU over North Carolina. Tar Heels blowing that 19-point lead, Isaac. We're not going to escape that, unfortunately. And then number 9 seed St. Louis. I know they're not a double-digit seed, but they are a mid-major team, and they slaughtered Georgia. Folks, 102-77 was the final score here, and it's worth pointing out that Georgia went on a 17-2 run to close this game. It was a 40-point game at one point in favor of the Billikens. Really fun one there, unless you are a fan of the Georgia Bulldogs. But now kind of want to look ahead. What potential double-digit seeds will we see in the Sweet 16? Because there's been just one in each of the last 3 tournaments. Now, before that, we saw quite a few more. So again, that's part of where this narrative exists, because it's been more recent in the NIL era. But we got a lot of teams that could potentially do it. Anybody have any thoughts on a team they think outside the top 10 seeds that could potentially make a run to the Sweet 16 or even beyond?
How about Miami of Ohio?
Yes.
Oh,
why don't we talk about it? Texas, they played in Dayton. I know Miami, they played in Dayton as well, typically, or at least this year. But historically, teams that do play in Dayton have a little bit of momentum going into their first round game. Let's look at Wright State in Virginia, though. I know that game's happening right now. If Wright State is somehow able to beat Virginia, Miami of Ohio goes over Tennessee later today, and we're seeing a Wright State versus Miami of Ohio round of 32 game and go to Sweet 16. Yeah, who's going to say the Cinderella's dead then, right? So I actually really do like Miami of Ohio. I know the whole conversation, all the rhetoric surrounding that team throughout the course of this year. I've been hot on them all season long. I don't care about quad 1 wins. As High Point's coach said, they won't play us. They didn't play Miami of Ohio. And then Miami of Ohio beat an SMU team that shouldn't have even made it into the tournament. That's a story for another day. But if they're able to get through Tennessee, I think the Redhawks have a really good shot.
You mentioned the High Point coach and how they weren't able to play these quad 1 games necessarily either. I should stress, I think Arkansas is one of the best players in America in Darius Acuff, and this is not a shot at that, but the way they play is primed to upset, because these are 1-game samples and they shoot a bunch of threes. And if it's a hot day, it doesn't really matter who the other team is at that point. Now, it could also go completely the opposite direction, but they're a 12 seed. We've seen 12 feet 5s before, and playing a 4 in Arkansas is not a whole lot different. Obviously, Acuff's great, but if High Point gets a bunch of threes on the board, it makes
Would anybody be shocked if John Calipari lost to a hot shooting mid-major team? I mean, it's not like this story hasn't been told time and time and time again.
Are you referencing something specific? Or?
Let me know if I'm wrong on this, but isn't the last 2 double-digit seeds, so the one last year and then the one the 2 years ago, those were both Power 5 teams, correct?
Yes.
Even though they were double-digit
last year was Arkansas.
Okay, and then the year before was
we had Arkansas last year, NC State the year before,
so and it's Power 5 teams, right?
But the one in 2023 was Princeton, was a 15.
Sure. But if we go off the last 2 years, that's where I'm kind of looking. I think Texas has looked really good to this point. I mean, Dalen Swain gives them pro potential. I mean, Vokia Titus is been on a tear right now. Yeah. Tremont Mark is just making every important shot. And I do think that Gonzaga without Braden Huff, it's at least vulnerable there, right? And then I also look at I'm picking Houston to beat Texas A&M, Parker, but if ever, to your idea of a 1-game sample size with Buckyball, they're a team that could, if they just get hot from 3, then who knows? So I don't know. I'm almost looking to the Power 5 schools that are 10, 11 seeds. Could one of them just make it in? But honestly, if you gave me an over-under of 1.5 of these double-digit seeds making it to the Sweet 16, I think I would take the under. I think that's what the last couple of years has kind of shown us.
And Derek, just to build on that really quick, as Andy said, these last 3 years, it's just been one double-digit seed, but the 2 years before that, 21 and 22, there were 4 double-digit seeds in each of those, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those 8 were high majors. In 21, it was Syracuse, UCLA, and Oregon State, who was still in the Pac-12 at the time, along with, anybody remember the 15 seed that year?
St. Peter's.
A little tiny point guard from Tulsa. Nope, not St. Peter's.
Oral Roberts.
Oral Roberts.
That's
and then
right.
in 2022, it was Miami, Florida version, Iowa State, Michigan, and then St. Peter's in 2022.
Got it. My bad.
Well, and was 2023 the year you had both San Diego State and one other one in the Final Four?
FAU, yeah.
And they were single-digit seeds, even though
That's right.
Yeah, but as opposed to the high major point.
Yeah.
But mid-major.
To Derek's point, I think another team that hasn't tipped off as we're recording this right now that could do it is Missouri. They're a 10 seed. They're taking on Miami in the
At
first
home.
round. I do have Miami winning that game, but
They're
Not a
playing
chance,
in
Andy.
Missouri.
Not
Playing
a
in Missouri.
chance.
yeah, they're
Playing
playing
that
in Missouri,
in
but then they have to play Purdue. And Arvin, I'm sure you're not expecting either Miami or Missouri in that game, but Purdue rolling right now, but was vulnerable earlier in the year. Again, I like Miami in that matchup, but if Missouri wins, I think they present at least an interesting challenge to Purdue in that one.
I got a question. This is to Derek. I'm sorry to single you out, Derek. I say Cal Baptist. You say...
I am very worried about Dominique Daniels.
All right. Here we go. Come on. Let's go.
That
I
dude
would
is
be too.
electric.
Yeah,
He really
is.
is.
And to Derek's point, sorry, I was going to say Texas is a massive threat to Gonzaga. To pretend I'm anything other than absolutely terrified of the fact that Sean Miller has beat Mark Few multiple times, the fact that they don't have Braden Huff, the fact that their offense, I think their adjusted offensive efficiency was like 9th in the country when Braden Huff got hurt, and now it's like 30th. And yeah, Graham Ike cannot do it all by himself as much as he is trying to just carry this team, Greg Jennings style, to the Sweet 16. I'm a little worried this Texas team has got enough juice to take him down. I think that's quite honestly my probably top pick among all of the double-digit seeds to make the Sweet 16, just because, again, I don't like A&M versus Houston very much. I think High Point could do it. I think VCU maybe, but Illinois looked so good in that first game. Like it just feels like it's going to be Texas, maybe Missouri. I'm not sure if we're going to see any other ones.
I'll throw one out there.
Go ahead, Matt.
Especially if UConn's not healthy.
Mhm.
UCF could take out UCLA today.
Mhm.
And they could be a team that could give UConn some troubles if they don't get their things together.
Matt, do we have an update on Demery?
Yeah, he's questionable per Dan Hurley. He released on social media that he was going to be good to go, which Dan Hurley was looking around like, he said, what? Because I'm putting it down as questionable on the shade. That's how the press conference went. And then he asked, we've got some other guys injured. Maybe I should go ask Silas if they're going to be ready to go or not. So I think Hurley's got to deal with how they communicate some injury news. But I don't know. TBD. We'll see. If he is playing, I don't think he's going to be his full minute rotation. And he's so important to UConn's defense that if he's not healthy and he's not able to play into the second round, that UConn's vulnerable for sure.
Can I say that I think that
uplift from a season ago? I know, Isaac, we've talked about this in the past. It's because of Silas Demery Jr. and what he's brought defensively. That's coming over from Georgia. Go ahead, Nate.
Can I just say that I think that UCF, who kind of fell to a 10 seed because they struggled down the stretch, beating an injured UCLA team and then a potentially injured UConn team to be our double-digit team is maybe the least sexy Cinderella team like in the history of college like that. Like, I think you're right that could happen, but man, that just would be such a letdown of like, oh, this like High Point doing it would be awesome. Cal Baptist doing it would be awesome.
They've got
UCF
a fun tiny guard.
Yeah, with no disrespect to Johnny Dawkins and UCF, like that would not be fun at all.
Well,
they beat some good teams.
To Andy's point, like we haven't seen it yet, but Donovan Dent is apparently good to go. But earlier this week, Mick Cronin was like, dude, I think Bilodeau's going to need a couple more days. So we're going to wait and see tonight. Also, for all the Nebraska talk about them getting their first win, hello, UCF. They've only got one NCAA tournament win all time themselves. And so we'll see if they can.
Should have had two.
Almost
Should have had two.
Yeah.
Should have had two.
Taco Fall.
Oh, JJ, they should have had two. JJ, where was your heart at that moment as Aubrey was trying to tip that ball?
Yeah, there was, no readings on it. It was just total shock and unbelievable. Like, the brotherhood of it all that's tied into everything.
Mhm.
And but Zion and those guys prevailed, fortunately, until they saw
until the fighting
Spartans.
match.
Not for long,
Yeah.
though. Good times.
Well, speaking of Duke, let's take a look at this team. Obviously, this near loss to Siena. Again, it doesn't count. They still won. They still advanced. But obviously, some questions about this team and kind of whether they're going to right the ship coming into their next matchups, especially with the injuries still a situation for them. We're going to talk about that. Some previews of some other games coming up on Saturday. All that coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, you wouldn't show up on game day without having a plan, and you wouldn't show up on a job without all the right parts. And that's why putting Supply House in your starting lineup is always the right call. Here are the stats: 300,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products, 500 tried and true brands, and 90% of the country is in the 1 to 2 day delivery zone. And if you need a last minute coupling, a compressor, or a press tool, they've got it, and they'll get it to you quickly. They are clutch. If you're a pro in the trades, you can join the MVP of rewards programs and become a trade master. Pros get exclusive member-only pricing, priority shipping, industry-leading customer service, and it's all absolutely free. So visit supplyhouse.com/TM to learn more about becoming a trade master. Use promo code SH5College for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, promo code SH5College. Supply House. Real people, real service. Today's episode is also brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but I never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by the people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, folks, closing out the show, continuing our conversation here on the second day of the greatest 4-day weekend in the history of this country as we got the NCAA tournament rolling through. Phenomenal slate of games on Thursday. Friday got us started with an epic all-time classic between Kentucky and Santa Clara. Now we're going to kind of look ahead. We know all of the slate on Thursday is done, obviously, so we're going to kind of look at some of these Saturday matchups and how those games might play out. And we want to start with you, JJ. Obviously, this Siena game was one of the big storylines on Thursday. Siena led most of this game, had a lead in double digits in the second half. Duke survived. And again, it's not even really putting it that way. They came back and won and got the victory here. Obviously, no Ngongba, no Caleb Foster. We knew that going into this game. JJ, how did you feel kind of outside of relief after this game in terms of what it means for Duke going into their next matchup against TCU?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it means that you got that one out of the way. Now you can go back to playing the basketball we've seen the number one overall seed play for the overwhelming majority of the year. Duke had a close one in their first ACC tournament game against Florida State, surviving by 1 point, and then really kicked it into rhythm against Clemson and Virginia. I hope that's a wake-up call. Great news for Duke in that right now, as we speak, Patrick Ngongba II is on the practice floor for the Blue Devils, and John Shire is hopeful that he's going to be able to play.
With the boot off?
Boot has
that
been
would be
seen,
quite the asterisk.
but he's,
he's on the floor, but he's got his boot on.
Right, he's just riding around like Marshawn Lynch style on the floor.
I need to see some boot cart races between him and Caleb Foster. That's what I need in my life.
Sign me up for that too. I mean, I would love every second of it. But I think that'll be a big boost against TCU when you've got that big interior. Caden Boozer has really come on lately. He's a totally different player. And then Cam Boozer is one of the best guys in the entire world. So, what an experience that was going through the Siena game yesterday, the boys. I want to make sure we give the Saints enough credit. And to only play 5 guys. Who does that? Like that? Who does that?
You're just going for it. That's what I'm talking about. We're all in this bus together. Everyone get in.
No need for subs. It's just these are 5 guys.
Screw it. Right?
You know,
JJ, I wanted to get your thoughts on Malik Brown's comment. Was that like a hey, he missed media training day and you don't say that? Did you like the transparency? Like what I want to make sure we see. Oh, hang on. I'm so sorry. Joshua Jefferson is on crutches right now, heading to the locker room for Iowa State. This is a massive story. We need to come back to that. But JJ, what like, you know what I'm saying? Like, where was your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of people have obviously had commentary on this, and I'd love to hear from you guys as well in terms of, is Malik saying this himself, or is this what Shire has said then to the team that he's repeating? And now I just feel like everybody is circling back on what was said in that moment and that sort of thing. Cam Boozer said some similar comments about, overmatched and overlooking something like this. And it's easy for us to do that. And if that's the case, how is that not easy for the team as well? Like, these guys are very aware of what seed structure looks like in their lifetime, right?
I don't mean to say that it's not an honest thought that lots of guys have this weekend, right? And I hope this doesn't come off like that. It was in stark contrast so much so that I mentioned it on Locked On Cougs with Emmanuel Sharp when asked about playing a Sweet 16 regional in Houston was like, we've got to play Idaho. And then when the game was kind of dicey in the first 4 minutes, because every game's dicey in the first 4 minutes, everyone's got nerves or whatever, he has a one-man kill shot of 10 straight points because he's like, no, we're not losing Idaho. And he's a senior. He's been around Houston for a long time. And there's a difference there too, right? And like, I did think that while it is an honest moment that he just caught on camera because he's a college kid talking to the camera, right? Like, it's not something that I think is quite as part of what makes these high-end athletes is that they can separate that, right? Like, that's I think what makes the best. But it was the contrast of that happening all within the same 24 hours was pretty strong to me.
Right. I think the mid-major teams, like, they, in order to ever pull a game off like this, they have to really truly believe and not just be trying to convince themselves that they can win. Like, they have to truly believe that they can. And the coaches, I mean, part of the reason you see coaches, obviously a coach who can lead a mid-major team to a win in the tournament is probably just a good X's and O's coach generally. But part of the reason you see those coaches get poached is because they have found a way to convince their team to believe capably that they can win, and coming off of, this Gonzaga-Kennesaw State game that I was at, I got to speak with the coach before the game, and like, you could tell, like, he believed it. He believed his team was capable and his players believed it. And after the game, they were so emotional that they were like, the emotion that came from these players kind of felt almost like they were surprised they lost. And I was like, I think you need to have that. Like, I think you need to feel like we truly, like, it wasn't like, oh, darn, we gave it our best shot. Like, and I didn't feel that from the Siena players either. Like, I'm sure they were proud of how they played, but like, their goal was to win the game and they didn't accomplish their goal. And I think when you're a high major program or a player or a coach, and you're not going into that game knowing that the other team is going to give you everything they got, like, that's where you become vulnerable. And that's where I think, like, Malik Brown said it out loud, but like, I think that again, it's maybe not permeating across every team and every high major program or even every Duke player necessarily, but it's a narrative that will catch you. Like, it will catch you because those teams and those coaches at those levels, they believe they can beat you with their full heart. And if you don't believe that they can, you're going to get got.
Yeah, they were trying to ride every momentum swing throughout the course of that game. And just fortunately, Duke was able to rely on the Boozer twins to get them back going in the second half. And Isaiah had some big run out dunks that were huge for Duke. And now it's, I don't have to join that 16 seed upsetting a one club. And
sorry, Nick.
Hey, so how you doing, Nick?
Yeah. Rats. No, I hate that. But good for you. You don't have to experience what I experienced, JJ.
Parker, I want to talk about this Houston, Texas A&M matchup, a couple schools that are not too far away from each other. It's going to be a unique matchup of styles, and really, like, the common denominator is that Texas A&M is a unique style of basketball, and so that usually ends up being the case. They play this intense press-heavy offense or press-heavy defense. They're going up and down the floor constantly. They were able to speed up St. Mary's and frankly just out-athlete St. Mary's, which seems to be the story for the Gales pretty much every time they make the NCAA tournament. They will not be able to do that against Houston, but I'm curious kind of your thoughts on how this matchup might play out and what you think about Texas A&M going up against your Cougs here.
Well, and it's interesting because I think a lot of fans that tune in March or whatever will think about, like, look, Houston had played A&M a lot recently. They played in the regular season in 23-24 at the Toyota Center. They played in the second round of the tournament in a classic game, double overtime. Ryan Elvin and Ramon Walker's on one leg at the end of that game. And Ryan Elvin's the white walk on the shoots free throws at the end of it, right? And then they actually scrimmaged somewhat ironically in a predetermined scrimmage before last season. And this is so dramatically different an A&M team from the staff to the roster. It's hard to like put that all like not out of your mind, but it's going to have nothing to do with any of that. There's no Wade Taylor or anything. It's a dramatically different style of basketball. I'm fascinated by they do a lot of out athleting, but they're also not like particularly big. Right. And so you think about like having like these big, 6'10" running around. They have none of that. And so I actually think Houston's going to do it right on the boards. A national perspective would help me here because I can't find like signature marquee wins on A&M's resume. They have a lot of wins. They've won all the games they were supposed to for sure. And that speaks to a different level of excellence. Right. But like when they play other top tier teams, the shtick here of Bucky Ball kind of needs a little bit more behind it. It's year one, right? He's got a lot to fix, but I think it just needs more oomph behind it, and they need a couple years of recruiting to the system, right, to build it.
That's it.
To your point, Parker, the only team that Texas A&M beat this year that is still in the NCAA tournament is Kentucky. And as we talked about, it took a last-minute shot to make it. They did beat Texas. And in Texas. They did beat Texas. So Texas and and Kentucky are the only teams they beat in the tournament. So, I think that is a question of can they actually beat a team at the top level of the sport? So far, they haven't proven that.
Texas is a playing team, and Kentucky barely got by, right? So that's
right.
That's a lot. I will say a lot of people have been like, well, Houston's playing to get home or whatever. College Station's less than an hour and a half from Toyota Center as well. Like they're playing to go home figuratively.
One of these teams is playing a home game. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Matt, let's talk about Michigan State here. Got a fun matchup against Louisville. I think the perhaps the most trendy upset pick that we had in this entire tournament with South Florida over Louisville did not end up happening, although it ended up close. It looked like Louisville just beating the doors off of them. And then South Florida came all the way back. Louisville still survives with a 4-point win here. Don't know the status on Mikel Brown right now, who did not play in Louisville's first game against South Florida. Obviously, that'd be a huge storyline against Michigan State and Jeremy Fears and their guard play. Mikel Brown, big, stronger guard, I think would be a maybe not a problem necessarily for Michigan State, but add a different element. How are you feeling going into this one?
From all accounts, and this is also from a beat reporter from Michigan State who spoke with Mikel Brown in person today. He's not going to go tomorrow, but who knows? We all wake up on a Saturday morning, feel a little different, don't we? Like maybe Mikel Brown just wakes up feeling like he's got the sauce that day. But yeah, I was actually a little conflicted how to feel about this game. On one hand, Louisville plays to a fast pace. Michigan State, we enjoy a fast pace here, but they also shoot a metric butt ton of threes. That's a Ken Pom stat, actually. A metric butt ton of threes.
MBT.
Thank you. See, ball knowers over here. But you know who actually calmed my mind about this game? Is the only Dalton Pence of Locked On Louisville, who I talked to earlier today, and he hates this matchup for his Cardinals. So that did wonders for my mental health earlier, and he cited some very good points that, hey, the physicality of Michigan State can and maybe will be a problem. Also, Louisville's kind of known to get loosey-goosey with the ball here, and above all, Michigan State, at worst, a top 5 rebounding team in the nation. They should be able to limit the second chance points here against a front court that isn't that outstanding for the Cardinals. So I woke up with tears in my eyes about this game already on Friday morning, but I got to say, Dalton did wonders to my mental health that no therapist could ever possibly do. So shout out to our good friend of Locked On Louisville.
Yeah, the front court to me is the huge advantage for Michigan State in this game as well. I think Louisville's front court was a little bit better than I thought they would be at times this year, but it's not been their strength for sure.
Yeah.
And for Michigan State, I think that I've said this a handful of times. I think their front court has been a little bit underrated just because, it's not the big dominant like offensive forces. Like they don't have a Terrace Reed or a Graham Ike or anything like that. But those two guys, Kohler and Cooper, are just rock solid at what they do and are great on the glass. And to me, Louisville would have to go scorching hot from 3, which to be fair, they're capable of doing. Like that's not unrealistic, but unless they do that, I just don't think that they can really match up well with the Spartans team.
It'll be interesting too to see, does Michigan State want to apply any press? I don't think that it will happen, but man, after seeing the last 10 minutes of that game yesterday, where the Bulls, what a cover by those young men. Maybe that kind of creeps into Izzo's head, but I think it'll just be more of the half-court offense or half-court defense, I should say, because do you really want to add tread on the Jeremy Fears, Jordan Scott's tires when it's going to be pretty apparent Jeremy Fears for sure will have to play at least 38 minutes tomorrow. I don't know if you want to extend the defense from him 94 full feet. So I can't wait for this game. I can't wait for this game to be over. How about that? I'm a wreck this time of the year. This is not a healthy Matt Sheehan talking to you right now.
Well, shout out Dalton for making you a little bit healthier. At least we got.
He was
that going
great.
for it.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Last game I want to talk about here: Nebraska-Vandy, a matchup of two teams that were undefeated for a very, very long time this season. Nebraska gets their first ever NCAA tournament win. They beat Troy on Thursday. Vandy survives a little bit of a scare from McNeese. 4-5 matchup. Which of these teams that we kind of weren't expecting to be in this conversation? And again, I think Vanderbilt may have been a little underseeded as a 5 as well. Which of these teams do we think is going to make it to the Sweet 16? Does anybody have any kind of thoughts, predictions, projections on how this game might shake out?
Vandy.
All
Vandy
right.
as well.
No, I just think the backcourt combo of Tyler Tanner, of Duke Miles now getting back healthy.
Yeah.
I just think that's, and look, I know you got the Price Sanford of it all, but like, I think there's enough in Vandy's front court between, like, I know McLaughlin and Okereke a little bit undersized, but they've got the heft, and you can bring Jalen Washington in behind them as a guy with a little bit more size. And I think that's going to be enough to stick with what they got to do to take care of Rink Mast. And then I just think that allows the backcourt to take over here. And as you said, Andy, like, if this game were seeded as I think it should have been, it would be Vandy as the better seeded team. I think they should have been a 3 seed to Nebraska's 4. Yeah. And so it's like, if you just look at the seeds, sure, it's like, well, Nebraska's the 4. And while I've been all on the Nebraska ball chain, I also loved the Vandy train. And so I think the fighting Commodores from Nash Vegas are going to win this one.
I paused for the stupidest reason. Boy, did Nebraska fans make that a raucous environment yesterday. I know that has nothing to do with the 10 players on the court, but whoa!
It was
man.
To the point where everyone covering any game in Oklahoma City was talking about it. If you hear anyone, any reporter, any game that happened at Paycom that day, like, man, Nebraska showed up. And if you know Oklahoma City, Bricktown, like the going out area there near the stadium, I'm sure that place was red.
Rocking.
Yeah.
Rocking. Yeah. No, so it's a silly reason because Vanderbilt's more athletic than Nebraska, I think, but I don't know. Can the home court advantage of a 4 or 5 point swing make up the difference? It might. So I'm excited for this one.
Well, folks, if you're listening right now live here, definitely go check out the end of this Wright State Virginia game because it's a 1-point game right now with about 5.5 minutes to go. Could be a really fun potential. The first top 4 seeded team to lose if this holds. We also got Iowa State seeming to have no problem without Joshua Jefferson right now against Tennessee State. And Hofstra is up 10 on Alabama, again, for those listening live. So certainly a lot of action still to come here on Friday afternoon. Some phenomenal matchups Saturday and Sunday.
Quickly,
get this thing whittled down to 16. Yeah.
Quickly, officially from Iowa State's Twitter account, Joshua Jefferson is doubtful to return to today's game with a lower leg injury. It was specifically his left. And it occurs to me in real time that assuming he can't return to action, that means we are missing 3 of the first and second team AP All-Americans from this tournament, not because they missed it, but due to injury. Obviously, Joshua Jefferson now, JT Toppin at Texas Tech, and Caleb Wilson from North Carolina. That injuries are just ruining this tournament in that regard, and it's so frustrating.
And with my Big 12 hat on, I would throw in Richie Saunders and like the way that changed.
Absolutely. I just
100%
of the top 10 players in the nation, it's like 3 of them are out injured right now.
Can I just ask a question? How many breaks does Michigan need exactly? Jefferson's going to be out probably. Wright State could take care of 3 seed Virginia, and Alabama's getting people arrested. Any of the top 4 seeds in that bracket want to have a full roster by the time you potentially face Michigan? Let us dream for a little bit. Good God.
What's why Alabama's arrest is if it had been the state of Oklahoma, he'd have been fine. I digress.
Right.
Dandy.
Honestly, sometimes in the tournament, like, obviously you got to get the breaks. Sometimes it's about you yourself as a team getting breaks. Sometimes it's about the Red Sea just parting in front of you while Moses stands there with his arms akimbo. I mean, it's crazy.
I think Dusty May planted evidence, but that's
you know what? Yeah.
Another
Absolutely. Clip that, tweet that out. We're getting the ball rolling here. Let's go, Nick. Come on. I'm with
Maybe
you.
some tie to the cop is like a third cousin or something.
Allegedly.
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right, folks. I think on that note, we're going to wrap it up for the squad show today and this week. We'll have another one next week, getting ready for the Sweet 16, getting into those Elite 8 matchups as well. Always fun to have these conversations with all our great hosts here. Again, we always want to say Apologies to you, Nick, and to the Lawyer family. We'll see how their game goes later tonight. Let's go Wild Popes. What a game for Mark Pope and Kentucky. Cheers to the Mick Bruins, unless they're facing Matt's UConn team. And until next time, folks, peace out.
Welcome into